Hey guys, welcome. So tonight we're going to be talking about what night we meet, what communication system we're going to use between games, and outlining just the general what kind of game you guys want to play. Hi there, I'm Dr. Megan Connell, and this is Psychology at the Table. Previously on another episode, we talked about Session Zero, and I want to revisit that topic and go into it in a little bit more detail here. So first off, what is Session Zero? Session Zero is a time where we sit down with our players before we actually start the campaign. Before we start Session 1, we have Session Zero. This is where we sit down and we talk about what kind of game we want to play, what things we want to see in a game, what things we don't want to see in a game, what behaviors are expected around the table, how things are communicated between games, leveling up, all of that is talked about here so that everybody understands the type of game they're getting into play. I really think Session Zero is incredibly important for any game. It helps make sure that we're all on the right page, that we have the right DM for the right players and the right players working together. Some things that you want to usually bring up during Session Zero would be go and no-go topics, nights that you're going to meet, what you're going to do if someone has to miss a game, what things you expect for gaming behavior. So like if you say your game starts at 8 o'clock, what does that mean? Does that mean we're all logging in and sitting down at 8 o'clock, or are we sitting ready to play at 8 o'clock, or is there some wiggle room in there? Rules about eating, bathroom breaks, talking about the safety measures that you're going to use, how players can communicate with you and talk with you outside of sessions, setting up those expectations. Like, you know, some GMs complain that their players are contacting them all hours wanting to talk about game stuff. And so setting up those parameters of like, guys, I'm happy to answer questions outside of game. Don't expect me to immediately respond, though. I do have a job, I do have other games that I'm running, I can only do so much. Session Zero is where we get to outline all of that stuff. One of the things, too, that I like with Session Zero is it gives you as the game master the opportunity to know, are you with the right group of people for the type of game you want to run? Maybe you want to run Cyberpunk and everybody at the table wants to play in high fantasy, and that's just not what you want to do. And that's okay. This is the point, is like we really don't have much time invested into the game at this point. We're just doing Session Zero. We can figure out, like, is this going to work or not? It's better to sit down, realize the game's not going to be a good fit for you before you roll up a character, come up with a backstory, and start diving into the world, and then have to leave, and it just doesn't feel good when you've put a lot of time into creating something, and then the game falls apart because it's the wrong people or something like that. Another thing that I think is good is talking about having the players create those connections for their characters. So maybe you don't roll up characters during Session Zero, but to at least make it so your characters have connections with each other in some way. Mike Shea, author of Lazy Dungeon Master Returns, has some great tables in his books and talks about that, of how to have strong and weak bonds. He adapted his based off of the game Fiasco, so that's another great resource for you to look at on understanding how to get your characters to feel slightly connected with each other and connected within the world. One thing I also recommend too is revisiting Session Zero from time to time. About every 6 to 12 months when you're running a game, I think it's good to revisit Session Zero and just make sure things are going well, that people are comfortable with your safety system, that the night's working, that the behaviors around the table are what they want to see, the plot's going in a direction that they enjoy, and that generally they're enjoying it. I think a revisit of Session Zero really shouldn't be any more than 20 to 40 minutes. I mean, the first one might be a couple hours, especially if you're rolling characters, but revisits should be really quick. I also really like to use anonymous tools when we do the revisit. So before we do a revisit of Session Zero, sending out a Survey Monkey that can be anonymous to all of the players so that they can give you honest feedback about how they're feeling about the game, the plot, everything like that. Because I worry sometimes people might not want to be honest about what they're feeling with the game. That's just a personal thing that I like to do. Again, do it your own way. There's no one right way to run a Session Zero. I think the only wrong way is just to not have one. And even then, lots of games go well without ever doing a Session Zero. It just helps to set up the expectations and all of that right from off the bat, and I think that creates some clarity and a lot more fun and enjoyment down the road. Anyway, that's our Session Zero discussion. If you have questions, please leave them below. And as always, let's make space at the table for everyone.